Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55. Today, we're talking all about Comcast earnings, the theme parks, the broadband, all of it. We're going to talk about it, break it down. I got Jared, Mr. Seymour Duck with me. We're also going to talk about that Simpsons Fortnite. Woo, I'm not a gamer, but these guys are, and we're going to talk about that because that looks absolutely wild. We're going to talk about up next on OG 55. What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining OG 55. I got Jared and Seymour with me today. We're talking Fortnite, Simpsons. We're talking Comcast earnings in regards to the theme parks, the broadband, the cable, all that good stuff. Before we dive in, though, I got the one and only Mr. Jared capture the magic with his Bumblebee popcorn bucket. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. Bumblebee's always on my shoulder. He's always got my hand, on my back. So does Tony Stark's gauntlet, but that's a sore subject for some people, I suppose. But no, glad to be here. Always enjoy talking all these things with you guys. And I think the Comcast earnings call is interesting. It's kind of good and bad, depending on which side you look at. And then we were talking about beforehand, the Fortnite stuff is very interesting. I haven't got to play the Simpsons version yet, but they do those integrations very, very well. So I'm very, very excited to talk about that and check it out. And you can find me at Cap the Magic over here on YouTube. Daily videos on theme parks and a lot of stuff OG talks about from a East Coast perspective many times.
There we go. Yes, absolutely. Make sure you follow and subscribe to him. Show him all the love. Link in the description down below. Mr. Seymour Duck, straight from the Duck Pond. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful, and thankfully, I got a good night's good morning sleep because I work at night because I was doing the daylight saving time ended last night and I had to do overtime.
Oh, but from what I heard, your systems were down.
Oh yeah, they were down, but I was still because IT had to fix it because everything was backwards because the time was different and everything got crashed.
You know what I noticed, though, Seymour? Like, I've had that happen with my job a few times. When the systems are down, usually morale is up. So,
was it like Y2K where they were freaking out about what's going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they put me in a room and they're like, "Hey, what's not working? What's not working?" I'm like, "Nothing is working. What do you want me to say?"
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Mr. Duck, where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Yeah, you can find me here at Orange Grove 55 for the Duck Pond and on X at Mr. Seymour Duck.
There he is, Seymour. Jared, let's dive right in, guys. We're going to start with Comcast. Well, we're gonna split this up into two little parts here. We got Epic Universe. This is courtesy, by the way, of themeparktribune.com. Epic Universe earns big money for Comcast, but new focus is increased ride capacity. This is courtesy of John Gregory. It says here, Comcast announced its earnings for the third quarter of 2025, the first full quarter when the park began fully opening. The Universal Theme Park division reported an 18.7% jump in revenue compared to the same period in 2024, taking in 2.7 billion with a B. Adjusted earnings were up 13.1% to 958 million, meaning the extra cost of operating another theme park are so far not dragging profits down. It says, however, earnings didn't quite match the same time period in 2023 when the theme park division brought in 983 million in adjusted earnings off of a lower 2.4 billion in revenue. I'll start with you, Jared. What are your thoughts on the theme park side of this earnings call?
It's in pretty. I mean, if you look at the percentage of revenue, it's very close to second quarter, which we saw about almost a 19% revenue side, and then the adjusted side's different. They're taking a lot of those. Of course, there's a lot of costs that are associated with a new park opening and marketing and all that stuff. But I think it's obviously positive. You're making money. They seemed happy with the performance. They also mentioned that they weren't seeing as much cannibalization at the other parks as they were expecting. So I know that was a concern that people have had about that, but whatever their internal number was for that, they said it was better than what they were actually expecting. And I think what's interesting to put it into a lens of this is going to kind of be on two different things. We have seen, at least in Orlando, and I don't know about California, but in Orlando, we have actually seen since COVID, summer is not the big time to come to the theme parks like it used to be. It's kind of July 4th and around that is not as busy in the Disney parks or Universal parks as it used to be. So I think will be interesting is you take that into account, and then we'll see, I think this coming week or in 2 weeks, we'll see what Disney's earnings are on the same time period. Because if Disney sees very similar numbers, and obviously the rising tide situation lifts all boats, if Disney is flat or down compared, then I think we can definitely see that there was a jump and a boost for Universal off of this. And then how does this portray going into, like, obviously the fourth quarter into next year? So I think it's positive. There's obviously some things that you can take away from this, comparing it to the prior ones and last year being down as much. But I think and we've talked about this before, I think with Epic especially, this is a long-term type thing. And from what even Mike Cavanaugh was saying, they're holding themselves back from not really trying to capitalize as much as they probably could off of the potential demand for Epic.
Well said, sir. Seymour Duck, what are your thoughts on the theme park end of this? Big increase, but what are your thoughts on the increase and the overall context and what have you?
First of all, I don't like when companies use adjusted numbers and then you have to go find out what they take away, because it always makes the numbers look better than it actually is. For the headline right here, right, it says up 13%, but that's just me. It's not that bad. It's up 13%, but I do want to state that, like, in 2024, it was a low bar. To go up 13% doesn't seem that high compared to 2024, but they did state that they were holding back. So is this the peak, or is this consistently going to be better the next quarter? We would have to see. But this is not a bad quarter. This is actually pretty good compared to all their other earnings. This is the only one that was actually impressive in my books for Comcast.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what say you, Jared, in terms of like the comparative to like the year prior and all that stuff?
I mean, you look at that, it was down in 24, and I think a lot of that obviously because Epic was going to come online. But Kavanaugh even hit at this, and I don't think they'd actually said this publicly before. It was something that at least I had known. I think a lot of people had known that they do have a park capacity limit on Epic Universe. So they're still, I know it's under 20,000 guests per day. Last I had heard, it was close to like 15,000 guests per day is the cap here. And if you look at this park, they want 40 to 50,000 guests in this park. So they have that wait time issue, and they're getting a lot of things ironed out. He talked about how they're looking to increase the capacity of this park in the coming months and also get the ride operations more efficient, and really pointing to the fact that, at least to me, obviously Epic has, it had demand, it had a lot of hype to it. But I think what it kind of points to is that they have been trying to balance the guest experience with, like, they could have, theoretically, they could have just opened up the floodgates, made a bunch of money in these first few quarters, but then I think you would have had really negative reviews about this park. So I do think they're kind of trying to balance that out, get these systems going. And I've said many times, Epic is the weakest it's going to be right now. So I think this only continues to grow into the future as they get this park more operational. And then, obviously, if there is more of an economic rebound in the coming years, I think that this park will absolutely help Universal take off from that end. So will Disney, of course. But I think this is the beginnings of, I would assume, multiple quarters of increased revenues going forward.
Now, when you say the weakest, are you referring to, because you're like, we're kind of all expecting like annual passes to eventually be rolled into this park. Eventually, who knows? We might be next year, might be the year after. But is that what you were kind of referring to in terms of like we can like kind of only go up from here in terms of that, and also like them upping the capacity and what have you?
Yeah. So I mean, basically, if you have a park that is not even half of what your overall capacity, what you want it to be quite yet, you've got operation issues. And you got to think too, this was also speculated. I know that Disney Tourist Blog had talked about this a lot, was maybe people holding off on going because of the assumption it's going to be slammed. And you saw that with like Galaxy's Edge when that opened, and a lot of people holding back. So I think you have people that still want to go to this park that may be waiting for it to get out of this sort of beta testing mode, as I've kind of often called it, the first 6 months to a year that a new park is open. So I do think, just from an operation standpoint, an overall capacity standpoint, and really performance, it is the weakest it'll be. And I just think it'll continue to get better. I do know they are looking, and I've had this told by a couple of team members who reached out, they are looking to add like entertainment options in Epic Universe still. So there's still things they're adding to this park that I think are just going to help strengthen it. And if they are able to make headway on these wait times, and they seem to think that, Kavanaugh kind of alluded to that they think they have a lot of space to work with on that end. If you can start upping that capacity to over 20,000 guests per day, Obviously, that's going to lead to more revenue because he was saying the per capita spending per guest has been higher since Epic is open. So one would assume you would continue to grow off of this if everything stays the same. Obviously, things can happen, but if it stays how it is right now, that's what I would just assume, kind of going off of that.
No, they did mention, Jared, like the cannibalization from the other two hasn't been that bad. That's actually really good news because that's actually something that I was actually very concerned about because I feel like they haven't, not to say they haven't invested in the other two parks, because they have invested in the studio and IOA, but I don't think it's been enough to offset what Epic is bringing to the table. But the fact that they're not seeing too much cannibalization, that's actually a positive sign. That's a really good sign, actually.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that helps them is the way they set up those ticket packages. Was every package was 1 day at Epic, and you had to go to the other park. So they were essentially trying to set that up with the tickets. But I also think that's why they're, replacing Rip Ride Rocket, Lost Continents getting something. Like, they're going to go back into those existing parks pretty quickly and try and bump those up. Because if you've been to Epic, I love Epic. It has its issues, but it's a great theme park. It is not the same experience at the other parks. So you definitely need to up the rides and attractions that you have in the other parks. So I think if they're seeing less cannibalization already, that's definitely a good sign. And things will loosen up also in 2026. They have park hopping to and from Epic Universe on all days of ticket packages. So, things are moving in a direction you like them to see. And if they can get that capacity up, I don't think you're going to hit 40 to 50,000 guests in this park for maybe another year and a half or not more. It really depends on how much room they feel they can really improve on the overall operations. They seemed, from their language, they seem to think they can make quite a headway there. So if they're able to get these wait times more manageable, then they can get more people in the park. And then you got to think, once you add APs onto this park, that's whenever you'll see a lot more revenue going up. So I guess in terms of potential revenue increasers, that's not a word probably, but opportunities to increase revenue, they still have a lot of levers they can pull that can help them in future quarters.
Yeah, well said. Seymour, in terms of like guest spending, right? Because we're hearing that's up. Like, do you contribute that? Because I know you're a big Nintendo fan, so I'm kind of curious your viewpoint on this. Epic Universal, is leaning hard on Nintendo, obviously.
Yes.
You feel like that's a big part of this? Because I mean, Nintendo
Yeah.
is a juggernaut. You know what I'm saying?
The one thing about Epic Universe that I think it's very different is that you have these deep connections with the IPs. You have deep connections with Harry Potter, Nintendo, especially Nintendo, right? In Super Nintendo World, people buy their merch, people buy their games, people integrate themselves into the Nintendo lifestyle. So, yeah, they will be spending more money in there. It's just like the Disney lifestyle, people integrate themselves in there, and they're friends with people who also integrate themselves into it. So for me, well, I don't like spending money, but people around me who I rather like to invest that money instead to the company that people spend. But yeah, I have friends who are Nintendo and they buy, everything Nintendo. They go to the parks, right, all over the world, not just Universal in the US, but in Japan. They go to Nintendo Museum. They buy the new Switch at launch day. They buy the new Mario Kart. They buy their merch. They integrate themselves into it, and they spend a lot of money for this. It's money that Universal can make. Yeah, and I'm sure there's a licensing fee. They have to pay Nintendo for that as well. But yeah, and the other IPs like Harry Potter. But if Comcast bought Warner Brothers, they don't really have to pay that.
Yeah.
But the one thing I wanted to say is that I think the next few quarters for this is what I would like to see if this is peak or really did they really hold back. So I wanted to see the numbers are great now, but you have for them they have to prove to me that these numbers are actually going to get better and better, and that they weren't just saying, "Oh, we were holding back." So for the next few quarters, those are the quarters that I would like to see that there's actually improvement, and I'm sure there is. But also, I would like to see if this actually helped Disney as well, because when people come in to see a new park, they're going to Florida, and that helps Florida, and tourism. So I would like to see, because Disney's earnings about to come up as well, and I would like to see if that had any hinder on the performance for Disney parks or actually just helped Disney parks.
That's a great point, and Jared, you brought that up as well, where it's like, is the rising tide gonna lift all ships, right? Or is it gonna hurt Disney? Because that's been a conversation amongst the fandom for years leading up to Epic Universe. Is this park gonna hurt the Walt Disney Company or help the Walt Disney Company? I know Josh D'Amaro came out, I think like a few months ago, and said, hey, we think it's going to help us, Now, he's, a Disney guy, so I kind of expect that. But I'm very curious to see like how that kind of shakes out, because I can see it going either way, to be honest with you. I can see it cutting into it, but I could also see it helping, So maybe a family, I can see the family who was like, we weren't going to go to Orlando, but now the Epic is there. Let's make that trip. And while we're there, we're also going to tack on the Walt Disney World because we're there anyway. It could help, but it could also hinder, where it's like, well, yeah, we were going to do Animal Kingdom, but maybe not this time. We'll do Epic instead. So I can see it kind of going either way. So I'm very curious what those numbers look like,
I think there's to me at least, there's some anecdotal evidence. Now, there is some reports out there from like touring plans and some other places that Disney World attendance this summer was lower than it's been the last few years. Now, that's reports. We won't know till we don't get attendance numbers. We'll get the revenue numbers. But I've talked about before, I talked to 2 different Disney travel agencies, and I was very surprised because I had assumed all along that people were going to go to Epic, but they would split time and go to Disney. And what they had said they had both seen, and these agencies don't know each other, was that they had saw a really big increase in their Universal bookings and a decrease in their Disney bookings, but that people weren't splitting time. They were choosing to go to Universal a lot for an entire week, which did surprise me. And you also can get a little bit of an indicator of what this will look like for Universal or maybe Epic in terms of there's this new Orange County, basically it's a hotel tax. And ever since Epic has opened, they have broken the record every single month. And every month, the local government has credited Epic Universe for that. Now, this is the same area that also encompasses Disney World. So they've broken records every single month. We'll see what I think the next one should come out for October, usually by mid-November, mid-month, they'll talk about this. So that can kind of give you a little bit of an indicator. And I think going into the Christmas season as well, this is a very busy time for theme parks. This is why I think even if you looked at Universal and it was staying flat from the first, quarter 2 to quarter 3, I think they'll probably have a pretty big quarter off of the holidays in particular. And I think that would be going into the beginning of the year, if they can get the park capacity up, I think that they'll look at probably just, continuing to build off of that. And then the big question, I suppose, would be quarter 2. Once you've had Epic on the books for a whole year, what's it look like after that? But it's anecdotal, but I think there are some signs, especially Disney as well, kind of announcing those short-term projects, which I think they may have learned that shows and parades weren't really going to draw crowds in. They need more attractions before they build the big things they're building are done. So there could be some breadcrumbs that kind of lead you to think that maybe they didn't perform as well as they were hoping this summer, and they're trying to adjust to that. But obviously we'll find out on the earnings call.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. And also, I was at actually Knott's Berry Farm, a local park out here in California. Really cool park, actually. As regional parks go, it's a pretty solid park, but it's a Cedar Fair park, and they have a licensing deal with the Peanuts characters, And it's interesting because when I'm at Universal or Disney, I see merch galore. Like, I was at Universal today, and I saw, every other person has like the Mario hats or the Luigi hats, or there's merch everywhere wherever you look, they're rocking something, right? Or you go to Disney and everyone's got the mouse ears, everyone's got the Spirit jersey, everyone's got the lounge fly, it's just everywhere. And you sort of like going to the Disney and the Universals, you sort of like take that for granted, right? Ebba and I went to Knott's yesterday, and there's a lot of cool merch. I gotta say, a lot of the Peanuts stuff was pretty banging, dude. Some of the stuff you can't find it anywhere else. You're not gonna find Peanuts merchandise really anywhere. You're not going to go to Target and find a Pigpen plushie,
True.
It's very difficult, So to go to Knott's and be able to find a plushie or a shirt with Pigpen on it, or Linus, or what is it, Patty? I think her name is Patty.
Snoopy too in there,
and Snoopy and all that. Like, it's kind of rare. I didn't see at Knott's a whole lot of merchandise like out and about. It was far and few between. And I'm like, and it kind of remind. And I talked to Ebba about that. I'm kind of like, well, it kind of like shows you the power of the Disney and the Universal theme park apparatus where it's like we take it for granted. You go to Disney and everyone's fucking rocking that stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like a religion over there. You know what I'm saying? And then and even Universal. I mean, all the girls are wearing the Mario hats and Luigi. I mean, you see it everywhere. The popcorn buckets are flying off the shelves, all the Minion stuff. But at Knott's, it wasn't the same situation. And I'm like, wow, you know what I'm saying? Like these two biggies, you know, Disney, Universal, they're really crushing it with this merch. And when I went to the regional park and got that experience, it really kind of opened my eyes as to how much Disney and Universal is really crushing in that department, you know? Because it's everywhere in those parks.
Well, and I agree with Seymour. If you talk about Nintendo, I didn't really think about that before he said it, but it really is a lifestyle brand. And you can say the same thing for Harry Potter stuff. So Universal can tap into that. And same thing when I'm in Epic, people have Mario stuff on constantly. And like the power-up bands, like there's just so much opportunity that all these parks have now to like capitalize on this stuff. And you know, even get into like pin trading at Disney. There's so many facets and pockets of all the parks that they really do that. And not too surprised to hear a regional park like Peanuts, like there's probably not a lot of pent up demand to get like Charlie Brown stuff. But I think that's probably the regional park challenges is some of that stuff like that.
Oh, I was just going to say they're huge in Japan because I think Universal Japan has the licensing for Peanuts.
Oh, okay.
And also Hello Kitty as well. And Pokemon, but...
Well, think about if Universal gets Pokemon into the parks in the US side, or like when they've talked about One Piece, like what are those animes? Like they'll sell so much merch off that stuff.
Yeah. I think there's some legal issue because Pokemon the trademark is owned by the Pokemon company in Japan, but everywhere else in the world it's owned by Nintendo. So they need to get permission from Nintendo, which is like Nintendo owns 33% of the Pokemon company in order to do that.
Yeah, I know there's some. Yeah, they've got some hangups there. I've heard recently that Pokemon is still on the books for Universal, or still in the plans for it. So I guess we'll see on that. But yeah, I know there's some more. Pokemon's set up a lot different than the rest of Nintendo.
Yeah. It's like a they got like multiple owners.
Isn't there like 3 or 4 owners of Pokemon or something like that?
I think so, right, Seymour? Isn't it like 3 or 4?
There's Game Freak, Creature, and then Nintendo. But then it's like Nintendo owns partial of Creature, and then it's like okay, so it's just basically Nintendo's the owner of it essentially, right. But they don't have control of what to do. But you need permission to get that control. It's very complex. It's a very Japanese thing to do.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We'll see what happens. I think at the end of the day, Universal probably will secure those rights, but man, it's gonna be complicated. Yeah, with all those owners and everything, it's gonna be a really complex situation.
So Seymour, you're saying it's a deep pond that you have to try and maneuver yourself through, is what you're saying. That was a really bad analogy. I was just trying to work in a
pond. Very deep.
But if they do get Pokemon, it's going to be making a lot of revenue for Comcast Universal. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah,
it's a mint. An absolute.
I've said before, I think Nintendo is potentially bigger for Universal than the Wizarding Worlds have been. I think Nintendo is that big. It's one of those two where it's just going to continue to grow. I mean, I don't see any reason as to why Nintendo will fall off in popularity. It hasn't since the 80s. So I think that it's just something that they continue to just, add more attractions, the lands, and it's just going to continue to grow.
No, I agree with you. I mean, look, Jared, you and I were about the same age. I mean, when we were kids, we talked about it on a recent video we did where like as kids, it was exciting to go to Toys R Us. And when you're right. And when your mom would tell you, okay, pick out an NES game, we get the little ticket, we take it to the front. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, back when we were kids, 40 years ago or some shit like that, right?
We look great for 22, OG. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, 100%, dude. I mean, dude, it's been awesome. Like finally getting to drink like last year.
I know. Awesome. I was like, I can finally have a drink now. It's fantastic. Yeah.
It's great. But yeah, Nintendo is an evergreen franchise if there ever is one. Like that is a evergreen thing. Like you said, it has not fallen off. It's done really, really good. Harry Potter, I would say, is evergreen, but it hasn't been around as long. And the problem with Harry Potter too, and again, not to get political, but it is what the reality on the ground is that J.K. Rowling is a very divisive figure. Whatever side of that, people fall on, she creates a lot of issues, and I don't know how that affects the franchise overall too, whether you agree or disagree with her or whatever, so there's a lot of drama with that whole fandom where Nintendo doesn't really have any drama. It's a pretty, and it never really has, right?
Nintendo kind of just does their own thing. They don't really like, to the detriment many times, like the fans and consumers get frustrated because they don't really listen to them that much. But then at the same time, they don't get caught up in other stuff. They just do what they do. But I will say the whole J.K. Rowling stuff, I think that's mostly like a Twitter online thing. Because you look at like Hogwarts Legacy, that game sold like crazy. But I mean, I agree with you. There are question marks inherently around Wizarding World in terms of its longevity. Like, how does this remake of this series go? Does it revitalize it, or does it end up damaging it? And like, really, what's the staying power of it being an attraction in the next, is it like Star Wars where it stays relevant for 20, 30 years? Or does it start to wane? I think are legitimate questions to ask about it, but it obviously has been very good for Universal since they've introduced them. But I think there are some question marks in terms of like the next 10 to 20 years, I guess you could say, in terms of how much demand is there still for it.
Yeah, and it's tough to really gauge it because the one time they tried to go outside of the main characters, like the Harry and Hermione thing, like and Ron, they try to go outside of that with Fantastic Beasts and sort of like expand upon this wizarding world. That one foray didn't really work out, but that was like that one attempt. That doesn't necessarily mean that every attempt to expand will be a failure. But we don't have a lot of data in regards to like what's the appetite out there for a broader Wizarding World kind of universe, like outside of the Harry Potter thing. Can it do well? We don't really know. We have one example, but I mean those movies were bad though. Like it wasn't even like I don't know. I feel like yeah, people want more Wizarding World, but like that wasn't it. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's kind of like Star Wars. I think people want more Star Wars. I think they want to expand the Star Wars universe and tap into other characters and go beyond the OT or whatever. But you still have to provide good content though.
Right.
And they're not just going to take anything, and that's the problem. And we don't have a lot of data with Wizarding World. So yeah, you're right, Jared. I'm very curious. And then right after Fantastic Beasts, Zaslav is like, well, let's just retell the same story again. And it's like, so we still don't even know. Because even if this new reboot is a success, it's like, okay, but it's the same storyline. We're going back to the same shit again. You know what I'm saying? So it's
funny. Harry Potter kind of has the same challenges as Star Wars, where it's like, how much is their actual interest in stories beyond like with Star Wars, like Luke, Vader, Han, Princess Leia. Same thing with Wizarding World or Harry Potter. It's like Ron, Harry, Hermione. Like, how much interest is there in these ancillary characters or stories? I guess we don't really know yet. But I'm very curious on this reboot show. It's not a reboot show, just this show that's retelling the books of the original movies. How that goes over. Because it could, like, if you look at the way the Wizarding World is set up, if it's like a runaway hit, there's no meet and greet characters. They could actually change up these rides that reflect the new characters in the lands, potentially, if there was that big of a hit, and really extend its, if those shows are going to run for a decade or longer, it could extend its popularity and really drive more traffic to the parks. But if it is not good and it's not a success, I don't know how much damage it would do to the original movies and where the parks are now. But I guess that's where I just look at that. I'm just very curious in the next little bit, kind of how that kind of goes.
Yeah, me too. And then Warner Brothers right now in general is very much in flux as a whole studio.
True. That's very
true. Zaslav ain't going to be around. I mean, I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of passing of the torch, I would assume, unless he becomes the CEO of like some bigger company. I don't know. That's all very much in question right now. We don't even know who's going to buy it. I know Paramount. I believe there's a report that if they chose Paramount, that Paramount agreed to have Zaslav continue to be the CEO, but maybe Netflix won't want that. Maybe, Comcast obviously probably wouldn't want that. So we'll kind of have to wait and see how that all goes and how the direction of Potter and all these franchises once they get bought out again,
Well, and Kavanaugh, did you see the statement he made where he said it's their duty to look at assets of Warner Brothers? And he even said I think he actually mentioned Harry Potter. So like you could see Comcast basically just trying to get Harry Potter rights maybe. But he did say there was nothing theme park related to really delve into. It was basically just about it's their duty to at least explore it, is what he said. So who knows where it stands?
Yeah, interesting. Well, this is courtesy of the Wall Street Journal. It says here Comcast stock drops after broadband subscribers fall for 10th straight quarter. Overall revenue and profit fall from a year earlier, but beat Wall Street forecast. So it says here, Comcast lost 104,000 subs from its crucial domestic broadband business in the third quarter, a downward trend the company predicted will continue. Quote, the broadband environment remains intensely competitive, which we do not expect to change anytime soon, quote unquote, Mike Kavanaugh, co-chief executive officer of Comcast, so the co-CEO of Comcast, told investors Thursday morning. Shares fell more than 5% when the market opened. So Seymour, I'll start with you, man. The broadband stuff. I mean, like we've talked about melting ice cube. This is probably why they're investing heavily in theme parks to kind of offset this particular division of the company, which is a huge part of their company. But like, what say you in regards to the numbers in regards to this particular?
With the broadband, it's not good. It's their cash cow. It's their one that's supposed to be funding the theme parks, right? If you're wanting to invest in all of these theme parks for Universal, and they're doing it quickly too, you're gonna need that money. And if these theme parks are not making as much money as, because Disney right now is the king of theme parks, and it's the cash cow for them, right? They're not producing as much as profits as Disney has. You're going to need to make those profits somewhere, and if this is going down and down, where are you going to get those profits from? Is it going to be from the theme parks? It's going to take a bit of time for that to grow, right? Epic Universe just came out. That's going to grow. There's rumors of a theme park in South Korea, but until then, you're going to have to get cash. And if this keeps going down and down, and they're heavy in debt as well, it's not a good sign. That's why the reaction of the stock market, right? The stock went down, because they're like, well, how are you going to invest in everything else? Like, even the rumors of them buying Warner Brothers, right? If your main cash cow is going down, how are you going to invest in all of this stuff?
Well, that's a great point, Seymour, and we talked about that many times on the show here. So do you feel, and you brought that up, I think, Jared, you brought that up as well, with the broadband situation and the debt. They have a huge amount of debt as well. Is it looking like, on paper, Comcast would be a great owner of WB? I mean, I would absolutely love that, because I think they've done a really good job at fostering IP. Whatever IP they sort of partner up with or even acquire, they seem to really do a really good job, whether it be DreamWorks or even licensing stuff like Nintendo and Potter. And I'm sure they would do the same with Warner Brothers. But like, honestly, like with the debt load and then like the broadband business kind of, circling the drain, basically. What do you got, Jared? What do you think? I mean, do you feel like this is going to hinder them big time with Warner Brothers?
I mean, that's been my question the whole time. I agree with everything you said. It would be a great place to land it, but when you got $100 billion in debt, are you in a place where it seems like Zaslav wants 70 some odd billion for Warner Brothers plus their 30 billion in debt? Are you in a spot to double your debt, basically? That seems like a tall order. And it's like, Seymour was saying, you have this melting ice cube here that is this, and they're trying to quickly pivot to the theme parks. I suppose the big question is, can they make that pivot quick enough to where they start getting enough profits from the theme parks to offset the losses they're going to have on broadband? Because even they're seemingly saying, like, this is going to keep happening. People are, getting rid of cable and whatever the challenges they have. And I'm not an expert on what Comcast does on the broadband side, but I do know, obviously, a cable provider and internet. I think they're trying to quickly pivot into the theme parks as quickly as possible. I think that's why Kavanaugh's statement to me that he said is they may be looking at individual assets they might acquire. I think that could be something realistic, but I do think with their debt load, and like Seymour was saying, I don't know really how you would. I guess you could probably get the financing for it. I don't know how all that high level corporate financing goes, but that seems risky to take on that much debt while you have these losses on the broadband side going on.
Yeah, what say you, Mr. Duck? What do you think? I mean, on paper, it seems like a match made in heaven, Comcast and Universal. But with all this stuff going on with broadband, the debt load, what do you think?
Just a couple of things. First, on the media side for Comcast, they were down 20% in revenue for it. They stated that it was because of Olympics is no longer in the summer. So last year, you had the Olympics and it rose the profits, the revenue up. Now it's down, and when I was looking at those numbers, it made me realize they are going to spin off a part of their networks and the TV business. So, in one way, they could move debt into that new spinoff. I forget what the spinoff's name is here, but yeah, they're going to spin off, and essentially they're going to move everything, all the networks except for Bravo, keep Peacock, and keep NBC Universal and the studios.
It's called
And-
Versant. Sorry to mean to interrupt you. Versant.
Thank you. Yes. So I don't know the details of that yet. It hasn't been public, but they're looking to, that could be one way where they could like move that around, and because that's what AT&T did with Warner Brothers and Discovery. They gave them a lot of debt. That's why Warner Brothers has so much debt, because AT&T is like, here's debt. We're gonna spin you off. So then it looks like that AT&T is much leaner and cleaner, but and that's what Warner Brothers is trying to do as well, right? They spin off to make it cleaner and leaner, and Comcast is trying to do that as well. So I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen with that. If that could help, then this whole thing could change, because Comcast president said they're looking into Warner Brothers. They're looking for more of the assets of like IPs and studios more than anything. They're not looking for the networks. They don't need those. They want the IPs and the assets of the studios, and and I would not be surprised if it's it's like Harry Potter. If you own Harry Potter in the parks, you don't have to pay those licensing fees, and for future growth, you have that, and you can ensure that for future. But that's what I'm intrigued about. It's to see if the spinoff will flip things around for Comcast.
Yeah, very, very curious. Very curious as to what they buy. Are they going to buy are they going to just like go for just a few of the IPs? Are they going to go for a broader
and not just that, even the streaming service with Peacock is still losing money. It's, I think, the only major studio right now that's losing money on their streaming service. Paramount is profitable. HBO Max is profitable. Disney Plus and Hulu is profitable. Netflix is Netflix, it's profitable. But Peacock, it's not. It's the only one that's left. Even in the Nielsen charts, it's at the bottom. Nobody really watches Peacock.
And they also lost wrestling, which didn't help them either. Now, here's a question. Seymour, you might know the answer to this. I don't understand. So I might be just a layman on this. If you have these melting ice cubes of these network television stuff, that's just going to continue to just lose. I mean, they're just dwindling. Why would they not just sell them for whatever they can get for them now? Because to me, it's like holding on to like a 1999 Nissan, whatever. And you're just like, it's not going to go up in value. If I can sell it today, it's going to be worth more than it is a year from now. And just use that to, I don't know. Now, I also don't know how much they might be able to get or who would even buy these networks to try and get rid of some of that debt. Is that something they would actually do if they could? Or they're just holding on to stuff that actually maybe they're hoping can help them make money? I've always wondered about that.
It really depends, because if you look at Disney and Bob Iger, he was looking to sell the cable side, ABC and all of that, and then decided, actually, never mind, we're not going to do that. And it is a melting ice cube, but then at the same time, it's still generating a lot of money, especially the ads, right? And you can't replace that. So a lot of times, instead of just spinning it off or selling it to get that shock of, oh, I just lost a significant amount of revenue, because of that, they're just letting it die off.
Do you think it's a good move?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know, because if Disney right now is just sold off their their linear, they're going to lose a significant amount of revenue. Will that not help for future? I don't know. I really don't know. Everyone else is not spinning them off. Will that help? In the long term, I think it will help. In the long term, if you spin it off and clear debt out, in the long term, it will. But whether or not to keep it in will hurt them, I don't know.
Like in the short term, like the medium term, that makes sense. Well, I remember Iger talking about that. I figured Iger didn't get very good offers, and he was just like, you know what, we'll hold on to this. That was kind of the thing I had. But I was curious, like, if whoever bought these things, I would assume they would just try and sell them off for whatever they could get, almost like a debt collector, I would assume, is the way they would treat them. I don't think they would be trying to like actually maintain these networks that they bought them.
You would think so, but Nexstar would buy anything.
True. That's true.
Yeah, we'll see. It's very, very interesting. There's a lot going on here with all this stuff. I think in 10 years' time, I think we're gonna be looking at a very different Hollywood.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You know, between all these acquisitions and AI and all that other stuff, you know, go ahead, Joe.
Well, I know people don't like the idea. Like I've heard a lot of people say, like, I don't like the idea of Warner Brothers being bought. I don't like the idea that Paramount was essentially, they've been purchased by Skydance. But I think this is the reality that they're in. It's a shrinking market that you're kind of forced into this. And I think the TV side mirrors that. Now, the only thing that makes if it's a gamble for Comcast, like Seymour was saying, Peacock is not doing well. If they were able to get HBO Max, obviously that changes things for their streaming side of things. But I guess the gamble would be, is it enough? Is it worth the gamble to try that with everything else they have going on? I don't know the finances of that, but I suppose that would be their gamble while they're pivoting to the theme parks, of if that influx of HBO Max with Peacock would be able to sustain them into the future thing, if they think that's the future, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the future, we have Disney, they invested heavily into Epic Games and Fortnite and all that stuff. So we actually got a trailer the other day for the Fortnite Simpsons Collabo, basically. I don't know what else you call it, but I'm going to play this in the background while we kind of discuss it. But I'm not a gamer, admittedly, but very interesting stuff. Seymour, I'll start with you. What are we looking at, and what are your thoughts on this, man?
Oh, it's a collaboration with Fortnite and Disney's Simpsons. That's what I have to say. Disney Simpsons. Yeah, it's the Simpsons, and it's fun. That's all I could say. This collaboration is fun, and fun to the point where it's like, this makes much more sense than having an attraction at a theme park. Having a digital version of, interacting the Simpsons IP to everywhere where you can go. Even like today, I was playing it today because yesterday the servers were crashing. So that's a good sign. That means that people are still interested in the Simpsons IP. And today I was going to Moe's Tavern, right? And then I can go to their phone, and then you can pick up the phone, and Bart will call at that Easter egg, and Bart's making a prank phone call saying, "Is Seymour Butts there?" Everyone makes that joke for me, but yeah, Seymour Butts there, and it's like, oh, I remember that episode. That Easter egg, and then you can go in the house. You can sit on the couch. In fact, you can get like Bob's Burger, Hank from King of the Hill, Peter Griffin, and Homer Simpson all sit on the couch. It's fun. It was just a fun time, and the nostalgia got me. And it's like, this makes sense. This makes sense for Disney's future, especially their they've been teasing for so long this Epic and Disney collaboration. If this is what we can get, where we can experience like The Simpsons, but digitally, I'm all for that. And it's cheaper, much, much cheaper than having an attraction, let's say at Disney parks, and it doesn't do well. Here, if it doesn't do well, it doesn't cost much to, scrap it.
Yes. And here's the thing. A lot of Disney fans, they want a one size fits all kind of thing with these IPs, and it isn't really like that realistically. Like you bring up a great point, Seymour, where this is a franchise where it's probably better in a format like this. You know what I'm saying? Do you really want them to build full-fledged Simpsons lands? We've talked about a lot here on the channel. It's like most people really don't, right? It's like, okay, cool, but it's still a popular franchise. Like Seymour, you mentioned, like the servers were crashing and what have you. So people still have an interest in it, but maybe it doesn't really work in that theme park setting. So what do? Well, you do this. You put it in a gaming setting, and you basically you get in where you can fit in. You know what I'm saying? As I say in hip hop, you get in where you can fit in, and so this works. So I don't know. And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Seymour. This is a Josh Giamaro thing, right? Because the products they were kind of folded into that experiences division, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is if this is actually Josh, yeah, it should be. But the experience is Josh, and actually gives me hope for Disney's future, because if this is how they're gonna go, I'm all for it. I'm all for experiencing Disney's IP in this type of way. And he's also been reported many times to be the one in charge for the Epic Games collaboration. So if that's happening because of him and he is the CEO, before I didn't have much faith in Josh, but I'm seeing these little things coming out and I'm impressed, right? So I'm impressed by this. And I'm being biased because I'm a huge Simpsons fan. Bigger, I think it's like the top IP for that Disney owns that I actually like.
Wow.
Ever all the way to the '90s. I remember the Simpsons. They were doing a lot of songs, a lot of video games. I remember the iconic "Do the Bartman" when Bart Simpson had his music video, or even secretly when Michael Jackson came on and had to uncredit himself, but he was singing for the Simpsons. I remember all of that. That was my childhood. It was the Simpsons. I know, OG, you're a bigger Family Guy fan, but
Yeah.
The Simpsons was mine, and I'm all for this, I'm all for this, and I'm all for if Josh is doing this because these are the right things to do. Because he's not just taking, it's someone who can actually integrate the media side into the experience, which is not what we get in a lot of the things that we need in a digital format. And
Well
Disney
said.
hasn't been doing that lately, and it's the future that they need to go because gaming and the metaverse and all of that is the future. And a lot of people don't go to the parks. Even me, right? I don't go to the park. I live in Canada, and it's a bit expensive to go to the parks. But if I can experience something from Disney that's in between streaming and theme parks, that can get me there. And this is what it felt like. It got me there. It's like I'm experiencing The Simpsons, and I've seen videos of the theme park, experience for The Simpsons for Comcast. This was a much better experience than that.
Interesting. Jared, what are your thoughts, brother?
Well, Fortnite does a great job with these collabs. They've done multiple ones they did Star Wars earlier this year. It was really, I mean, they always do a very good job of how they treat these IPs. And if you're looking at Disney, obviously wanting to get in more into video games, Epic is a great partner in that because they do a good job. So I agree with what Seymour is saying. And you're also talking about when it comes to Fortnite, they have 110 million active users per month. So that is a ton of people that play Fortnite still. It always stays relevant. And I think that you're going to see more of these Disney properties get collabed in here. And so I think it looks cool. I mean, I haven't got to play it yet. I was hoping to today. I didn't get a chance to play the Simpsons version of it quite yet. But they always do an awesome job. There's always Easter eggs if you're a fan of these things. Like the Star Wars one had that AI Vader that kind of went off the rails a little bit there. But, you could go, you could hire Vader or Chewie during missions and they could tag along with you. And there's the First Order base. And so, like, I'm not real familiar with The Simpsons. Like, I know of it. But I think in terms of if Disney wants to get into video games, Epic is a very good partner. And if it becomes, instead of having their own dedicated game, they can implement it into Fortnite and things of that nature, tap into that 110 million players per month. That's going to be very good for them. And obviously that's more people than go to theme parks. So then you're talking about all the skins they buy, the battle passes, all the stuff that goes into Fortnite. It could be very lucrative for them to further tap into it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And they can also get a little bit more, they have a little bit more creative freedom, I think, with Fortnite than a theme
Yes.
park. Because we've talked a lot about it here on the channel where it's like, with these edgier properties, like specifically like with, like Peter Griffin and Family Guy, right? Disney owns that franchise now, but realistically, you can't put that in a theme park. It's
Right, yeah.
it's way too off the rails. You know what I'm saying? But you could do it in this, and they do it in this. I think there is a Peter Griffin skin and stuff like that, right? So, Fortnite and this gaming stuff provides opportunities that like maybe the theme parks wouldn't be able to allot them. You know what I'm saying? So you can kind of put things in this Fortnite category, that wouldn't necessarily fit elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a good little spot for stuff like this. And I think it looks, I mean, honestly, in terms of like the actual game itself, in terms of how like the aesthetics of it, admittedly, I haven't been a gamer in a real long time. Like my generation is like Super Nintendo, like Duck Hunt and all that shit. Like it's been a long time since I've been really into gaming.
Everyone needs to
But
pressure OG in the comments to play, because we're gonna we'll do some Fortnite streams or something. I think it'd be fun.
dude, I want to. That'd be a lot of fun. We'll do Fortnite here on OG55. We could do it maybe even on theme parking or something. I think it'd be a
Yeah,
lot of fun, dude.
yeah.
It'd be great. But yeah, I mean, I think it looks great. I think it gives Disney a lot of creative opportunities here. Like you said, there's a huge audience for it. So I
The
don't
other
know,
thing
man.
it gives you the ability to do, this was interesting. When they did the Star Wars collab earlier this year,
Yeah.
it was very popular. And a weird offshoot of that was Battlefront, which is a Star Wars game that has not been updated in years, had an influx. They had the most people that ever played that game at the same time. And nobody ever really knew what happened. I think they played Fortnite Star Wars and were like, this is awesome. I want to play a Star Wars game, and went and played the Star Wars game that was basically like dormant, just sitting there. So it does give these opportunities. Let's say this really takes off. Disney gets those theme park rights back, which is why I think they want to retain them for that movie coming out and things like this, where if, like, say this version of Bart becomes very popular from the game, throw yourself a meet and greet in the parks and say it's the Fortnite Simpsons meet and greet, which they would be able to do probably because they're part, they've invested into Epic. So it does open them up if they want to bring video games into the parks, where instead of the parks leading the charge, it's more of a reaction off of the games that maybe they implement that could make their way into the parks, and not an entire Simpsons land or whatever else property they would use.
And that's smart because you can sort of beta test this stuff, like you were saying, through the gaming end of it. And then when you know it's a hit, then you can introduce it into the parks, right? So that's a real smart way to kind of do it, because the parks like Seymour, you were saying, are much more expensive to kind of do. So lead with this, see how it does, and then you can take whatever successes you can glean from this. Then you can take that and put it into the parks, and then you have a guaranteed hit on your hands. So
And
it's
it also
smart all
leads to
around.
that younger demo that Disney's like that middle ground, where a lot of times Universal, I would say you talking like teenagers, early 20s. That's kind of the demo where Universal kind of starts winning over more. You
Yeah.
put stuff like this that's big in the games, that would give people want to be like, oh, I want to go check out the new Simpsons Fortnite meet and greet, or they do something in the park to like cross promote it, things of that nature. I think it gives you a lot of flexibility and potential.
Yeah, no, well said. And then Seymour, you sent me a little something. I'm going to share this. Give me just a moment.
And yeah, you can also do. I think right now they're doing a cross promotion for Disney Plus, so you can watch. They're doing. When I was watching the event yesterday, they were. It was like a mini episode of The Simpsons, and now you can actually watch that mini episode on Disney Plus, and that could be one thing as well, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm playing The Simpsons now, I want to watch The Simpsons, and there are people who have never watched The Simpsons, a younger crowd, and they're like, okay, where am I going to watch it? It's all on Disney Plus, every episode, except for the Michael Jackson one. That one got unreleased, but that's legal issues.
Yeah. Okay. That's a terrible Michael Jackson. But okay, this is courtesy of Sheena BR on X. Fortnite hit a peak of 2,620,000 concurrent players today. And this is as of this recording, November 2nd. Seymour, you shared this in the group chat. This is crazy, right?
Yeah, that's the reason why the servers were crashing. Everyone wanted to play. And it's almost like free advertising for The Simpsons.
Oh no, it is. It absolutely is. It's that Disney flywheel, though, right? We always talk about it. It's one more cog in that machine that they can use and leverage. They have movies, TV, streaming. They got gaming. They've always had gaming. I get it. Like I played the DuckTales game when I was a kid and all that, but this is gaming on a whole nother level. This is synergy on a whole nother level that they're doing here with Fortnite and Epic Games. So. And Disney's had a really rough go at gaming historically. Maybe they are finally getting it now. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, that's where it makes sense for them to team up with Epic, because obviously I think Disney on their own, that's a tall hill to climb to try and make your own gaming studio and all that stuff. You're basically just tagging up or a tag team partner with Epic that they can do the stuff that they do already very well. Like these are the type of integrations in Fortnite that they've always done very well. So you're leaning into something that's a strength of theirs. And then the only thing I have a question about the Disney Fortnite or the Disney Epic stuff is they're going to create their own little Disney verse. I just don't. I'm curious what that will look like because I don't think you're going to see Mickey Mouse or the Disney princesses like running around Fortnite with guns. So it's obviously
Yeah.
going to be something more kiddie. Yeah, like I just have maybe, but I have a hard time thinking you're going to see that. So like, what IPs do they use in Fortnite itself versus their own little verse they make, and what's that look like, and what's really the appeal of it? I guess to like the Fortnite gamers, I guess you could say.
What say you, Mr. Duck? You think they're gonna have Disney, like, Princess Jasmine over here, just like,
not princess, but they already have the Incredibles there with guns.
They do,
and
Yeah.
and Disney's villains and all that. But yeah, no, I think there'll be, Disney will do, more family friendly. But I think there'll be, aspects of it where you can have Star Wars, you can have Marvel, their own sector, their own section of it. And I think there was rumors that the Epic Games collaboration there's gonna from Disney Drew saying that it's gonna integrate Mandalorian as well. So things like that are coming in for it. So you can see like where you can get an attraction where you wouldn't be able to do it at a park, but at a Fortnite collaboration with Epic, that could happen.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I'm telling you, from all the moves we've been watching here with how Josh is maneuvering this corporate landscape, very savvy dude. And now he's connected to this stuff. He's stacking win on win, and meanwhile, Dana Walden is putting out fire or trying to put out fires. I would be shocked if it wasn't.
I agree. At this point, it's Josh. It would be the most like shocking thing if it wasn't at this point, I think. Because if Josh doesn't get the CEO, then he would probably leave. That's what the last few have done. And then your main guy that's involved with Epic, you'd have to get somebody else on board. So you would lose ground. So, I feel like it's probably going to be Josh.
It'll be Josh. And maybe they'll throw Dana, a little something. Maybe they'll do like a Mike Kavanaugh situation where she's like the co-something,
Yeah.
Because I know they do like her. And to be fair to her, she's a very competent executive. I know Rupert Murdoch really liked her. Maybe they'll give her something to kind of keep her on board, like the president role or something. You know what I'm saying?
Of some port, yeah.
Yeah, but the CEO spot, it's all Josh. And he's young enough too. What is he, like in his 50s? I mean, he's a young dude.
I think he's 54.
I mean, that's young, man. I mean, for a CEO, especially a CEO like Disney CEOs usually go for a little while, So if he's only like in his mid 50s, I mean, dude can go for another 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, Iger is pushing 80. He's still going.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think it all looks toward that. And and what's funny about Fortnite too is they become the hub of cross promotion. So like if you got to move, and Disney can tap into that obviously easily. Like you got a Mandalorian Grogu movie coming out that will probably coincide on the Fortnite crossover. That's going to lead to the movie. You see this quite a bit. And I think Seymour, you were saying before, there's rumors of like a wizard or a Harry Potter one in Fortnite.
Yes.
And if they do that with the new show, like I think Fortnite has become what used to be like late night talk shows would go to late night shows to try and amp up, appeal or interest in movies and shows. I think Fortnite has kind of become that because this is kind of how it's already built into the game and the audience expects it. And so this game's always evolving and changing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It keeps the interest. The way they're evolving and changing, it keeps that interest level high. I mean, Fortnite's been around for a real, real long time, right? Like over a decade at least, I would say.
I think it launched like 2014, 2015.
That's crazy, man.
Around there. It's actually pretty fun. I play with my daughter sometimes. Like I go in and out of it when there's certain collabs. You can kind of play them. It's still fun. They maintain the interest in the game. It's always that game you can always just go back to. You could go play other stuff and you're like, oh, okay, I'll play Fortnite again. And it's, I think the streams would be fun because, especially you haven't played before, it gets a good mix. Like, and you get the skins you can wear. Like I do have the Peter Griffin one. I have the Ninja Turtle ones. Like they have all sorts of different characters you can be. So it always just kind of mixes it up.
So Jared, what do you say? Fortnite 6, 7?
We were talking about that before. I learned what 6, 7 is, and I'm angry. I know anything about it. Yeah, and I still don't really understand it. I don't know.
But I don't either. But let the kids have it. I know we had some weird stuff when we were kids. It's funny being a kid, right? They have their own little world. They live
you were into wrestling. Remember the whole like the X? What were they called? It was WWF. It was Triple H and those guys where they just hit the X on their crotch, basically. That was a big thing when I was a kid, so I can't really say that it's like we were evolved beyond silly things.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I actually, we talked about it before, Jared, on this channel. I think even Seymour, I think you've been on shows before. We talked about it. Gen Z is great. They're funny. They really are.
They're interesting.
I hold a lot of faith in that generation. Save us, please.
Somebody.
Yeah. But before we get out of here, I want to actually share something really special. This is a friend of the channel. His name is Jeff Gordon. Real big member of the theme park community, and he does a lot. He's a friend of mine. I love this guy. He does a lot of great stuff for just about everybody. He's always out there when there's a disaster, or he's always trying to save money, or not save money, but raise money. I'm sorry, for people in need. And this is actually to help those in need, to put food on the table this holiday season and beyond, which is awesome. You know what I'm saying? So he's reaching out to the Disney theme park community. And this is together.feedoc.org. So I'll be linking it down below. Jeff is a friend of ours here at OG55. We love Jeff. If you can donate, awesome. If you can't afford it, that's fine. Just share it out, do what you can. But appreciate Jeff and all he does for the community and just honestly humanity in general. The guy does a lot of great stuff for people. So appreciate you, Jeff. You're awesome. I'll be linking this down below. And then we also have the lovely Miss Mimi Fan. You can find her on Instagram and on YouTube if you're looking for fun spots in OC or LA County in terms of really great food spots, Korean barbecue, Vietnamese food, boba places, or fun places to go. You can check out the lovely Miss Mimi Fan, and she'll get you caught up on all the great food spots for food or drinks in the LA and OC area in the description down below. Mr. Jared, I want to thank you for joining today, sir. Where can everybody find you on social media, sir?
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a good time enjoying all this, talking this stuff and speculating. But you can find me at Captain Magic here on YouTube and social media. That's an easy handle there. And then if you want actual Universal Studios Orlando, Disney World theme park advice, tips, reviews, and things, you can check out CTM Podcast. That's my wife and I, where we do a podcast there. And we should have an episode coming out tomorrow, or when this comes out for you, probably the same day. Talking about some Epic Universe ticketing information and things of that nature. So that's where you can check me out. And as always, thanks for having me. It's a great time. Love hanging out with you, gentlemen.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Jared. And he has a merch store, which is really, really cool. A lot of nerdy stuff. Actually, I think you're rocking the Epic shirt right now. As we
am actually wearing the Epic Universe one. It looks like the Metallica tee from the 90s.
I love it. I love it. Check out the merch store down below. If you use OG55 as your promo code, you get 10% off. A lot of great tees. Really, really cool shop. They got Nintendo, Universal, Disney, all that good stuff. Make sure you check it out down below in the description and support CTM Apparel. Mr. Duck, where can everybody find you on social media?
Before that, I just want to say congrats to the LA Dodgers for winning.
Hey, it's funny. I don't care about sports, but hey, it's always cool to kind of see your hometown kind of win. Actually, it's funny. Our friend Drew, the Disney dude, he's not into. He doesn't live out here at all. I think he lives in Florida, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a huge Dodger guy. Loves Dodgers.
I will say Shohei's insane. I will give that guy all the props in the world. That guy's insanely good, but I don't like the Dodgers. But I'm a Cardinals fan. Yeah. Congrats to the Dodgers. They did win. So yeah.
They won. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. But yeah, big shout out. Thank you for that, Seymour. But where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, you can find me here at Orange Grove 55 for the Duck Pond, and on X at Mr Seymour Duck.
Yeah, we got a special Duck Pond coming up with some singing involved, Seymour, I believe.
Oh yeah, special guests. Yes.
All right. We'll see. Coming up. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll link everything down below, whether it be Jared's t-shirt store, Jeff Gordon's charity in regards to feeding people during the holidays, which are very, very important, and the lovely Miss Mimi Fan. All that will be down in the description down below. Comment down below with all your thoughts on everything we discussed today in terms of Comcast earnings, Fortnite, Simpsons Collabo, what that means for the future, what that means for Daddy Josh. We would love to hear from you. And until the next time, see you.
Thank you so much for watching OG55. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and become a member today.